for February 11th, 2020. And please stand for the invocation and moment of silence by Ms. Thurston.
Okay. Recently, we celebrated our 100th school day of the 2019-20 school year. I want to take this time to thank all of the teachers and the staff for their love and dedication to all of the students and the town of Enfield. You continue to truly make a difference in the lives of our students every day. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. God bless America. Thank you, Ms. Thurston. Fire evacuation notice. There's 2 exits from the chamber, one to the rear of the chamber, out to the parking lot, one to my left, your right. Take a left down the stairs into the rear parking lot. Before we proceed, I would just like to say if anyone in the audience would like to speak during audiences, there's a sign-up sheet over on the counter, so please sign up. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thurston.
Here.
Mr. Ryder.
Here.
Mr. LeBlanc.
Here.
Mr. Salazar. Mr. Rutledge.
Here.
Mrs. Costa.
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc. Mrs. Hall.
Here.
Chairman Krusell.
Tina's here. Tina's calling in.
Oh, she's calling in.
Is on the phone.
Oh, she's here. Okay.
Oh, I said here. I'm sorry. I forgot to say here.
I heard her voice, but I thought you were changing her voice.
I'm here. Thank you. Number 6, board guest, Mr. Dresnick, Geography B winner.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Tonight we have a very special guest. We want to welcome a JFK grade 7 student, Lucas Aiello. Lucas is here tonight to update the board on being this year's winner of our Geography Bee. At this point, I welcome Lucas up here to share his experience with the board.
Pull that mic up close and make sure the red light's on.
Don't forget to say hi to the people we talked about.
Hello.
You can hit that once.
Yeah.
Okay.
Go ahead, speak.
My name is Lucas. I'm in 7th grade at JFK, as he said.
So, any questions for our Mr. Ryder?
Could you tell us a little bit about your experience at the Geography Bee?
The interesting part specifically for me is the fact that we actually had a 3-way tie at first for our 3rd place. I placed first. We had our 2nd place, and for 3rd we had a 3-way tie for 58 out of 70. So we had to decide who would be our 3rd member, our alternate, and who just wouldn't be in. And also, I actually came in 2 days late, so I missed some of the stuff. So I came in at first, I had to redo a lot of it, and I still ended up winning. Fun.
How was the tie broken?
So at first they had to do another separate assignment of more questions. So we picked our 3rd place. Then we had another tie between 2 of them. So then we had a lightning round. If whoever got which one wrong first was out, and that person would be our alternate. That was useless since 3 of us showed up.
How do you prepare for a geography quiz?
Quiz or the bee? A quiz or the bee specifically?
For this Geography Bee?
For the geography bee, how do you prepare? How do you get ready? How do you know what answers are going to come out?
You really don't. It's all random. They don't prepare you for it. They just throw you on a stage,
how
give
do
you a
you
microphone
prepare,
and a marker.
not they.
Wait, what?
Don't you study geography in any way?
Yes.
So how do you study it? Do you stare at an atlas? Do you look at pictures? How do you do it?
Online, read textbooks, do whatever Mr. Delaney gives me.
Ah.
Mr. LeBlanc.
Well, I'll tell you this much. You definitely know more about geography than I probably do. So way to go, man. And Mr. Delaney, he's a great teacher. So you're learning from the right guy. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, I'm in one of his 2 honors classes. He is a really good teacher. I'm sad he couldn't be here. I don't know if he's watching this. Hi, Mr. D.
Did you go on to the state level, or where did you
So I had to take a test to see if I could pass through to the state level. I don't get the results until the end of March. That's anxiety. But I really hope I do make it. I think our last year's representative didn't, but 2 years ago someone did. I don't know if we've ever made it past the state level, if there is a past the state level.
Definitely let us know, and you have our support. Definitely.
There hasn't been.
How about our student rep? Would you like to ask him anything? You want to ask him where anything is?
You want to go into a bee with him. I remember doing the geography bee myself, and I did not get far, so good job on that.
I won the 6th grade competition last year, but I lost to the 7th grade representative last year by 1 point in the complete final. I still hold a grudge against Poland.
Ooh. Well, on behalf of the board, we congratulate you. I think we should give him a round of applause. If you want to come on up right here, and you can see yourself on TV, and if anyone wants to come up and take a picture, you can stand right here. There you go.
Mom and Dad, you did good.
Maybe he'll come out of his shell.
Oh, he's funny.
You guys want to get in?
You want to get in the picture? It's your time.
All right.
Come on in.
Yeah, come on in there.
Yes.
This is on video.
Nice picture.
Got 3. They're bad, though. You can blame me.
Well, thank you again.
Good job.
Good luck.
Good job.
Good luck coming up. Good luck.
And we're crossing our fingers for the states for you, so.
Thank you for coming.
And thank you for coming. If you want, you may leave.
Go study geography.
Yeah, go study.
He's funny.
All right, so that brings us to number 7, Superintendent's Report. Mr. Drezick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Lucas wasn't kidding when I asked if he had any question. He said, "No, I'm in drama. I'm fine." He proved himself right. So
He was perfect.
Madison is here if you want to give the student report.
Please.
So as the year goes by, the prom season is getting closer and closer, which means the prom committee is starting to plan all the different food and stuff like that. So we've decided that it's going to be March 27th at Manili's in South Windsor. And also the junior class student council is holding a fundraiser at Panera Bread Thursday, February 20th. So if you stop by between 4 and 8, you could support the class to fundraise for prom. So it's going to be a busy few months, but it's going to turn out well in the end. So that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a reminder that Enfield Public School teachers will hold full-day professional development days on Friday, February 14th, as well as Tuesday, February 18th. So students will be off from school starting on Friday, the 14th, and will return to school on Wednesday, February 19th. So happy Valentine's Day. You're welcome. And there's a list of February events that are in your packet. And there's 2 items that are not on the agenda this evening that I wanted to bring to the board's attention. One, and I apologize, and I just got a call on my way in that I forgot it, but I didn't intend to forget it, is that our elementary students at the Eagle Academy were discussing what they would like to do to celebrate their 100th day of school. The students voted and decided that they wanted to make something to raise money for 2 organizations, Cure for Kids and #Team Trees. And their goal was to make 100 bracelets, and the students were extremely excited to sell them to staff within the building, and the staff actually offered to continue their efforts outside of school as well. As a token, they sent Mr. Longy and I a bracelet, and I had every intention on having my kids put it on me so I can show you this evening. And as I walked in, my daughter called me and told me you forgot your bracelet on the counter. So I apologize, but next meeting I will have the bracelet for you. And lastly, another item that's not on the agenda, but I'd like to bring up tonight and make the board and bring to the board and the public's attention is that yesterday I received some information from the Connecticut Association of Boards of Education, otherwise known as CABE, which the Enfield Board is a member of. But since it was too late to put on the agenda for tonight's meeting, I'd like to address this now. And as you know, at our last meeting, several parents and students addressed the board during the public comment portion of the meeting, sharing experiences with you about incidents that happened to them or their children. So the public is aware, during public comment, it's not permitted for the board or myself to address specific parent concerns. Now, the board has the ability to address public concerns during their board member comments, but as you can see from this evening, the superintendent's report is prior to public comment. In any case, it would be inappropriate for me to discuss a specific student in a public format such as this, as all of our students have federally protected rights to privacy. But this does not mean that the concerns brought forth are not heard or not investigated. And although I can't comment on specific information regarding individual students, I did take what I heard 2 weeks ago to heart. And I chose to use that information as an opportunity to not only investigate what I heard, but to begin a dialogue in our community that I believe is much needed. It was actually one of the speakers from last meeting that suggested that we all needed to talk to one another, and this person was 100% correct. Now, since our last meeting, I've had numerous conversations with parents, staff, and colleagues on the topic of equity and diversity in our schools. And these conversations confirm that a broader dialogue with students, parents, the administration, and elected leaders is necessary. It's been discussed right here in this room that issues surrounding inequities have been a foundation of this country. And although there are no quick fixes, I believe we owe it to our kids to have an open and honest dialogue about creating a better experience for all of our children and families. I've spent a lot of time over these past 2 weeks looking for the most ideal way to start this work, and the information I received yesterday from CABE appears to be a good starting point. Now, CABE started an ad hoc committee on diversity, and their mission is, quote, every Connecticut school board will embrace diversity and commit to equity and fairness to enhance success for each child. With grant funding, this committee was able to create an equity toolkit for Connecticut boards of education to help member districts facilitate conversations in their districts on issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion. CABE created this toolkit as a step-by-step guide for planning a community conversation about equity. Now, although extremely prescriptive, it's designed to maximize positive impacts for communities and, more importantly, the students that we serve. I believe it's important for the public to know that we currently have many initiatives underway in our schools. However, we do not have a board-initiated program to begin these meaningful conversations with students, parents, and concerned citizens. And the last evening, I shared with the board the information I received, and I informed them that I intended to recommend exploring this program immediately this evening. Now, I do have to stress that this process is a commitment, and ask for everyone's patience as the work will take time to get underway. But in the end, doing this right is more important for kids and families than just doing it quickly. And I'd like to take a moment to highlight a few things for you about this program. Number one, this would be a Board of Education initiative, ultimately requiring a formal board vote to begin the process. However, this evening I'm not asking for a board vote, rather a consensus to contact CABE's executive director to begin the process. I would ask that the board consider extending an invitation to the town council as well, as these conversations impact the entire community. Number two, once I do reach the CABE director, I would ask permission to post this toolkit on our website so the community can have a clear understanding of the work the board is undertaking and the importance of community involvement. The Enfield Board of Education does not own this document, so I would not feel comfortable posting it until I have a conversation with CABE. Number three, if the board decides to formally endorse this program, a subcommittee of residents, staff, students, and board members would need to be established. Now, this is similar to other Board of Education steering committees, such as the Fermi Use Committee, budget committees, etc., where the public is asked to apply and the chairman and board leadership will appoint membership. Number four, the culmination of this program is a community-wide event, open to anyone interested. The committee will be the group actually planning the community conversation, not the board. Input from the public is crucial for this process to be effective, so although the board would be the sponsor of the event, it's the work of the committee to organize the process. Number five, the document clearly emphasizes the need for a moderator, one that is trained on how to facilitate large group discussions such as this. The facilitator would not be an employee of the district or a member of the Enfield Board of Education. The Board of Education members' roles is clearly defined in this document. And lastly, what raised my interest level is the outlined conversation guidelines, and I'd like to share them with you. One, speak for yourself. 2, participate as equals. 3, listen carefully and with respect. 4, respect others' opinions. 5, everyone has an opportunity to speak. 6, agree to disagree. 7, disagree with ideas, not people. And 8, stay focused and silence devices. These simple yet effective instructions ensure a meaningful conversation takes place, but emphasizes the need for civility. Now, if the board is willing, a simple consensus this evening will allow me to contact CAPE's executive director tomorrow to begin the process for us here in Enfield. And once I receive approval, I will put the information I have on this program on the district's website and probably enfieldpto.com, as it's crucial for the public to understand the importance of this work and to be active and willing participants. Now, I can endorse this program, and I strongly do. However, the decision to move forward is really up to the 9 of you. And to note, I also have a personal relationship with some of the members of CAPE's ad hoc committee. So if the board chooses to move forward, I would also call upon them for their guidance. Now, as you've all mentioned in your public comment at our last meeting, equity and diversity is a societal problem, and we can't fix the world's problems all at once. However, we can control what we do in Enfield, and we owe it to our kids to have meaningful and sometimes difficult conversations to ensure that all of our kids have the best experiences possible. So therefore, Mr. Chairman, I would ask that the board consider granting a consensus to move this initiative forward. And that would conclude the superintendent's report.
So, piggybacking his thing, we all got the email on the toolkit. I think it's something beneficial for the town and beneficial for our school system. It's something we should. So at this point, we just want to give them consensus to go ahead and start the procedure on setting this up, and then we'll have formal votes later on. So do we have a consensus for him to proceed with?
Sure.
Okay, so you do have consensus. Hopefully this is, the first of, and like you said, it's going to be a long time process, but it's a step in the right direction, and we'll go from there. So, anything else for the superintendent? All right, so we'll move on to audiences, but before we start audiences, I'd like to remind everyone to please refrain from using personalities. And if anyone violates this policy, I will interrupt your comments and ask for you to stop. I mention this because at our last meeting, I forgot to read this disclaimer prior to our public comment. During the last meeting, a member of the public came forth to express concerns about their child's experience, which is their right. However, while speaking, this community member repeated a rumor regarding one of our administrators, which was a false rumor. And during the time since this comment was made, significant disruptions to the educational process had occurred as a result of this untrue statement. Spreading a false narrative that has been making it through the social media and ultimately here to public comments can cause lasting damage to our kids, as well as to our staff. And as a board, we should not tolerate this. On behalf of the board, I would like to thank all our staff members for continuing to do the best they can for our children. And I apologize for having to do this while internet gossip attempts to get in your way. As it reads in our logo, every child, I can't remember the logo, I'm sorry. Yes, every child, yes. So please, we must refrain from using personalities or mentioning staff members during our public comments. So is there anyone in the audience wishing to speak?
No one signed up.
So does anyone in the audience wishing to speak? Going once, going twice, 3 times. I declare public communications closed. Thank you. Number 10, unfinished business. Action, if any, regarding the fiscal year 2020-2021 budget.
Are we going to skip the board members' comments?
Oh, I did. Yeah, I did that on purpose.
Okay.
Number 9, board member comments. Who would like to start? Mrs. Hall.
Actually, in
Turn your
In
mic on.
connection to our diversity comments and what have you, I have an announcement from ERFC, which is celebrating Black History Month, and I can't read it on this side because it's in Spanish, and I'm not good at that. Even though I could understand it, I couldn't read it for you. So it's Wednesday, February 26th, from 6 to 7:45 at the Asnunta Community College Conference Center. And for those of you in the Thompsonville area, there is bus transportation available if you wish to attend. And for more information, contact ERFC. Celebrate Black History Month, which is February.
Thank you, Ms. Hall. Mr. LeBlanc.
All right, so in regards to some of the topics that were brought up tonight, I think it's a positive step in the right direction. I'm not one who's afraid to have tough conversations. Diversity issues do not stop at the walls coming into Enfield, nor does it stop at the walls leaving Enfield. If we are to find common ground solutions, the only way it starts is by having dialogue. I'm encouraged by the ongoing communication between this board through talks with faculty, staff, and community residents. Schools are supposed to be a place where everyone should feel safe and treated with respect and equality. As I said in previous comments, the old saying, treat others the way you want to be treated, is crucial in having an inclusive world. This being said, I have full confidence in our teachers, faculty, staff, administration, and this board to promote the values of equity and diversity. We have tremendous teachers where students should feel safe and be able to go to for support. I understand we don't live in a perfect world, and sometimes that is not possible due to different circumstances. But I still have hope that in my lifetime, I will live in a world where everyone gets the respect they deserve, regardless of race, religion, social class, etc. Part of my hope in having this become a reality is through what I see through personal experiences coaching youth sports. The kid athletes treat every kind of individual like a brother or sister, and barriers do not exist. Nelson Mandela has a quote that says, "Sport has the power to overcome old divisions and create the bond of common aspirations." My hope is that this theory can be spread to all aspects of life for all Americans. With all this being said, this conversation will take all of us, and that is why I'm personally in favor of exploring the superintendent's proposal, which we just approved, as I feel this is a positive step in the right direction. I thank Superintendent Drezek for this proposal, and as a board, this issue will continue to be of an extreme importance to us. As you see, we take it very serious. Speaking of sports and treating all with respect, my highest praise goes out to our Enfield High wrestler, Noah Bonini, who selflessly put sportsmanship above all in order to give an opponent with Down syndrome a win on senior night, a win that kid will never forget. I know we plan on having Noah come in front of the board and share his experience along with his teammates at season's end. So, to Noah, great job. To the wrestling team, great job. And that goes to show what our community stands for. On top of this, my last comment is in regards to Henry Barnard. PTO is looking for volunteers for our book bingo coming up in March. That's it for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. Ms. Costa.
Thank you. Parkman School, tomorrow, February 12th, is the ERFC Ice Cream Social for Enfield Street School and Parkman School. February 25th is Wear Red for CHG, congenital heart disease, a $1 donation, which will either go to the Yale Children's Hospital or CCMC's Pediatric Cardiac Unit. And February 28th is their special Someone Dance, and they're, of course, looking for volunteers. Superintendent Drezek, I certainly want to thank you for the passing along the CABE toolkit. I read it in some detail today and studied it, and I'd like to spend a lot more time with it. Like you, I want to acknowledge the people that came forth 2 weeks ago in the audience, I know it can be tough to come up and speak your mind, and it's very frustrating to not get the feedback you're looking for. Unfortunately, as a board, we act as a group of 9, and as individuals, we don't provide counsel or take action, but we are listening. Personally, I'm an analytic. I need my data and my facts. So what I've been doing the last 2 weeks is I've been going out and gathering that. And yes, I can certainly confirm that the minority population in our schools is significantly higher than that of our teacher population. But I can also tell you that the population of minorities that are in teacher prep courses in colleges is significantly lower as well. And many of those teachers go on to teach in cities with high minority populations, so we need to find a way to turn some of that around. I've also looked at our policies, which clearly forbid any kind of behavior like that. We have procedures to be followed if a student does experience that sort of harassment. And I'm looking into what our high school equity team is doing. We have a lot of things already underway, but certainly this will help. I'm not saying that we've done everything we can, but I also think we need to have a common understanding of where we're starting from. And I think we need to have an agreement on some fundamental concepts. The Board of Education, the 9 of us sitting up here, cannot solve the problem on our own. And Superintendent Drezick and his faculty cannot solve the problem on their own, and parents can't solve the problem on their own. It's truly going to take all of us working together, and it seems that this new initiative might be a good way to get at that. This is not solely an Enfield problem, but we need to address those things that we can. I think we have to agree that the discussion of discrimination, be it racial or otherwise, just like the discussion of drug use and fighting and inappropriate actions, should begin in the home. And the foundation should be laid before a child starts school. But you and I all know we don't live in this world. If you look at social media, you can certainly see that not all adults set very good examples of appropriate behavior. They often resort to name-calling and bullying, and they could be perfect strangers. So it's unrealistic, I think, to think that the school system can totally step in and raise children because parents can't or won't. Collectively, we need to find a way to strengthen the family unit and enable parents to parent. And I'm hopeful that our review of this new program will certainly bring all the parties together to come up with a solution. Thank you.
Mr. Ryder.
Good evening, everyone. So my updates for Hazardville Memorial School, they had a great special persons dance last weekend on Saturday. They have a PTO meeting tomorrow at 6 o'clock in the library. February 24th is Spirit Day, so they're asking all students to wear red or pink. They'll have a possum assembly for rooms 15, 16, and 17. If your child is, the whole school has the assembly, but if you are a parent or guardian of a child in room 15, 16, or 17, you, of course, are welcome to attend the assembly. Eli Whitney and Prudence Crandall. Girls on the Run program is something that came to Enfield a couple of years ago. My wife was a coach for 3 years at Eli Whitney. It recently expanded to Prudence Crandall as well. You can still sign up if you go to enfieldpto.com/Eli Whitney or /Crandall. You can sign up through this Friday, the 14th. And the Girls on the Run program begins at the end of this month, the last week of February. Also, on February 19th and 20th, specifically at Eli Whitney, all the grade 5 kids will be visiting JFK, so they get a chance to see a new, larger building where they'll all be experiencing 6th grade. I know that the other 2, 3, 5 schools will be doing that as well, but I know specifically on the 19th and 20th of February, that's when the Eli Whitney 5th graders will be visiting. They'll also have their Snowflake Social on Friday, February 21st at 6 o'clock. For all the schools and for all the parents out there, the spring submission date for box tops is March 1st. They still take the cardboard clippings in addition to doing it electronically and through the app. Also, there's a transition to kindergarten, as Mr. Drezick said, that's at JFK. So for all the parents that may watch this or the PTOs, if you could post that on your page. Obviously, if you're already in kindergarten or above, you already know what the deal is, but you might have a neighbor or a friend or somebody you see at the market with a 4-year-old that will be joining us this September in Enfield Public Schools at kindergarten at one of our 3 K2 schools, so please let them know. It's an informative session. There'll be representatives of all 3 K2 schools, the principals will be there. There'll be members of the PTO there to answer any questions. I'll be there as well. So please let any parent, neighbors, friends you see at daycare, anybody that's on their way to kindergarten at Enfield this fall, please remind them that they can come. I also wanted to thank Jason Allen at the Town of Enfield's IT department and our own Guy Barassa. I realized in mid-January that we couldn't access EnfieldPTO.com inside the buildings of the town or the schools. The site, for some reason, was being blocked on the Wi-Fi. There was just an issue with the IP address, so that's back on. Facebook traffic was up for EnfieldPTO.com, and I was wondering why. It's because a few people were trying to get on the website and could not. So a few parents and friends of mine that reached out and said, hey, we can't get into your website when we're at school. Thank you. That is fixed and addressed. And that's all I have for this week. So thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Wagner. Mr. Rutledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, regarding the JFK PTO, again, they meet the first Tuesday of every month. Their next meeting will be at 6:30 p.m. on Tuesday, March 3rd in the JFK Media Center. A couple things going on with them. The JFK student versus faculty basketball game is still happening on Friday, March 6th. If you visit EnfieldPTO.com, whether you're in one of our buildings or not, there's under the JFK link, you can still buy tickets. And Bethany is still looking for some volunteers, so if you're interested in helping out with that event, you can contact her over the JFK PTO Facebook page or by emailing jfkmiddleschool.pto@gmail.com. They're also still doing their brick fundraiser. This is a fundraiser where people get to make order custom bricks that'll be used to pave the walkway and the surrounding area to the flagpole once the school is renovated. And the proceeds of this event go to support various educational initiatives at JFK. If you're interested in buying a brick, that information is also under the JFK link at EnfieldPTO.com. Mr. Chairman, some of my comments will be reserved for later in this meeting for item 11D, the new policy 5000. But I would like to, of course, thank Mr. Drezek for bringing up the information from CABE. I think that'll be a good area to explore. I also would like to thank you, Mr. Drezek, for explaining why we can't necessarily talk about such matters from up here in our seats or in your seat. As I can understand from the perspective of people that are either watching these meetings or that come to speak in front of these meetings, how that can be frustrating. You know, you bring a concern up and you want it addressed right then and there. You know, you want answers, and you'd love to have for one of the 9 of us to provide you with the answers. Unfortunately, you know, as Mr. Drezek alluded to, there are certain privacy regulations, and as much as we may want to comment on something, or much as we may want to demand answers or put out something right then and there, our hands are kind of tied in that matter. So that's why, if you notice, you know, we'll very often refer through the chairman to the superintendent on matters involving specific students or personnel. Also touching a little bit about what Vice Chairman Costa said about how we communicate in public. Some of the talk 2 weeks ago, actually, I think it touches on just that matter, how we actually communicate. And it's beyond word choice. It's beyond just the exact language people use. I think it's important that we all strive to find the meaning behind that language. I think I speak for probably everybody in the country that at one point or another, you've misspoken. You've meant to say one thing and you've said another. You know, the whole foot in the mouth kind of concept. You know, unfortunately, it happens at times, and, you know, we can only hope that people understand and try and delve into the meaning of what's being said. One of my privileges is being on the Connecticut Debate Association Board of Directors. And as I go around the state judging and helping to administer debate tournaments, you know, you listen to these kids, they're talking about a topic, and it goes beyond just, you know, what the debater actually said. They ask questions about it. They try and understand the meaning behind the language and the meaning behind the points that are trying to make. And I think if we do that as a society, some of these issues that we've talked about in terms of discrimination and such, I think that'll also be a good first step. Finally, Kind of in line with the Geography B student that came up here, again, congratulations to him. I think as a board and at these meetings, we do a fantastic job highlighting the achievements in our athletic and our music departments. And, you know, those students certainly deserving of any spotlight shown upon him. That being said, it was also very refreshing to see Lucas in front of this board tonight as we recognize something more in line with academic achievement. At the heart of our mission, really, it's to provide students opportunities for the taking for a well-rounded educational experience. And for those on any kind of track to a 2 or 4-year university, they're not looking for just scholastic achievement, they are looking at extracurriculars. But I would argue that that academic success is going to be of paramount importance to any student's application to post-secondary education. So through the chair to the superintendent, I'd like to suggest that we continue doing what we did tonight with the Geography B winner and maybe offer additional opportunities to highlight scholastic achievement. For example, on the Enfield High Parents page, they recently announced who the valedictorian and the salutatorian were. A couple of meetings ago, Principal Clark came here and mentioned that we've had students accepted to Ivy League universities. I think this type of achievement is just as deserving of a spotlight as our athletes, as our musician, as our artist, or any other group. So I would like to see if maybe we could explore that a little further going forward in the future. So thank you.
Will do. Anyone else? So going last again, all my concerns were answered. We make a difference at Enfield, every child, every day. And that's not a logo that we came up with. That's not a logo the administrator came up with. That's a logo that all our staff worked on and came up with. So, and we have faith in our staff. They work tirelessly every day with our students and our children, and they make a difference in Enfield with every child and every day. So I just want to say that. Buzz Robotics is working hard on their robot. I think I heard last night when I was over there that they're like 85% complete construction. But they are having a pasta supper on Wednesday, March 4th from 5 to 8 p.m. at the St. Bernard's Church, which is now part of the St. Janine, and I'm going to murder this name, St. Janine Parish, 426 Hazard Avenue in Enfield. It's tickets are $10. They are available in advance. It doesn't say how to get them in advance, but they are available at the door. But I think there's a link. Probably Enfield PTO. We can put a link up for them there. But support these people because we got mentors that are there working with these kids, and all the proceeds go towards their tournaments, their travel, and all that. So. It's a very well programmed, and again, it's pasta supper's great. I've been to many of them. So Wednesday, March 4th, 2020, 5 to 8 p.m. at the St. Bernard's Church on Hazard Ave in the parish hall there. For Chaplain's Mass was this past Sunday. That is also a noteworthy event that the John Machowick Post puts on every year, and this is their 70th consecutive year they put this service on, and we're the longest running community that puts this service on every year. It's to recognize the 4 chaplains that were on the USS Dorchester in 1943 that gave up their life jackets so 4 other people could be saved. That's a short story, but there is a longer version. But it's 70 years they've been doing this every February near the anniversary of the event. So it was a great event. And again, I think I'll leave it at that. Yep, I think I'm good. So now we'll go on to number 10. Unfinished business. Action, if any, regarding the fiscal year 2020-21 budget. I don't know, dude. Mr. Dresden gave us the presentation back 6 weeks ago now, I think.
Mr. Chair,
Please, Ms. Hall.
I'd like to move acceptance of the superintendent's proposed budget. He has explained it very thoroughly at our past meeting,
Yes, you did.
and we went into great detail, so again, motion that we accept the superintendent's budget as presented.
So I have a motion by Ms. Hall, seconded by Ms. Thurston. Any discussion? I think it lays out what we are. It's a starting point. But it's something per charter that we have to approve to pass on to the council. Mr. Rutledge.
Yes, just as a procedural matter, at a previous meeting, didn't we put it on the table?
No.
No.
Oh, there was no vote to table it for
No,
a future meeting?
It's
Okay.
listed as unfinished business, so we could just vote on it from there. Okay? Any other discussion?
I did have.
Yes, Mr.
I did have one other thing, and unfortunately, I did have to leave that special meeting early where a number of questions were asked, and I did have one additional one. So I know right now we're looking at we're requesting about a 2.6% increase, if I remember my numbers correctly. However, we've spoken in the Finance Committee that we are looking to potentially carry over some budget from this year to the next year. Now, let's hypothetically say we carry over 1% from year to year. Would that mean that you're actually only asking the town council for an additional 1.6%, or how is that?
No, the budget that I presented was a 2.61% increase, which is also inclusive of a 2% carryover.
Okay.
Now, in the event we were unable to make the 2% carryover, then obviously between now and when the budget's adopted, we'd have to make adjustments, which we would bring to the board to further consideration.
I think if I may continue, I think the budget is very good. Mr. Drezek, you presented it excellently to all of us. I think one of my only concerns is that, a lot of people in our community have talked about how they don't really want to see any kind of significant tax increases. And I know last year we had about a little less than a 1 mil increase. I know some people have expressed concerns over that. And so I think the budget, it definitely seems to fulfill the needs of our schools, but being as a financial steward, I am a little bit concerned that we may be asking for more than we'll be able to get. I think that's really my only concern there.
Well, the only issue with budget, it's this issue I bring up every year, it's backwards. We have to give ours first, give it to the council. The council has to do this first, and then we're still relying on the state in May on what amount of money we're going to get to cover this budget. And it's backwards. It should be the state telling us in January what they're going to do. Then we can go in March, and the town can do in May. But we're the lowest totem pole here, and it's below my pay grade too, so I can't.
But we must be first.
Yeah, but we are first, and this is the number we have to start with, but again, it's something we have to do per charter. We have to approve it and submit it to the council. So, any other discussion? I think we've beaten this to the point. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thurston? Mr. Ryder? Sorry about that.
4.
Mr. LeBlanc?
4.
Mr. Rutledge?
Abstain.
Mrs. Costa?
4.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Chairman Kruzel?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Now we move on to new business, number 11A, approval of the 2020-21 school calendar.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Rutledge, seconded by Ms. Thurston.
I have a proposed change.
Okay, that's discussion time. So please, Mr. Ryder.
I didn't know where we were in the order of discussion. The only change that I would like to propose is on December 23rd. I was hoping that could be an early release with lunch to get us into Christmas Eve the following day, as I know some families travel, et cetera.
Sounds good to me.
How does that fit into our?
That won't have an impact on the total days because a half day with lunch would count. But I just would like, for the record, I've been accused of having the nickname Half Day Drezek. So I would just like the record to state that it was Mr. Ryder's idea,
So
not
the
mine.
23rd of December is Half Day Rider Day.
I accept. On behalf of the students and faculty, I accept that.
So,
Good change.
motion to amend the school calendar, making December 23rd a half a day. Early release with lunch.
I'd consider that friendly, so it's okay.
So do I have a motion for the amendment? Motion by
Chris.
Mr. LeBlanc, seconded by Mr. Ryder.
Second my own
I should, yeah,
suggestion.
you made the motion too, so, but anyway. So a hand vote for the amendment to the motion. All in favor? No, we have 7 in
What about
favor.
Tina?
Tina, you okay with that? Yes, I'm okay with that. So we have 8 in favor. So now the motion as amended, any other discussion?
Okay.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thurston?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Yep.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Costa?
4.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Chairman Kruzel?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Happy.
That was a good one.
So again, December 23rd, 2020 is Half-Day Rider Day.
All the other ones are
And Mr. Chairman, may I make a
Yes.
suggestion? That for, in the future, for people that call in, can we get a picture of them just to put in front of the phone? So
Okay.
people can still remember.
Good
what they
idea.
look like?
Poster necessary.
All right, let's move on. 11B, acceptance of the Enfield High School. Acceptance of the Enfield High School expansion project number 049-0138 RNV/E as complete and authorized to submit the ED 049F final grant application for a school building project to the state of Connecticut on behalf of the Board of Education for final payment.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Ryder, seconded by Ms. Costa. We have a gentleman here from CSG. Do you have any comments on this, or are you here for the other?
I apologize, Walter. I'm only here for Henry.
Okay, so that's what I thought. I'm sorry I put you on the spot.
Not at all.
So this is to have the state, send this to the state so they can put us in audit to finalize the high school building. And I think it's a few years ahead of schedule, too, as I understand it. So that's great. That's great that we're getting this sooner than later, so. Any other discussion?
Question.
Yes,
Something I don't know specifically about, but I have read in newspapers over the last year or so about lights creating problems in the neighborhood. Has that been resolved appropriately?
it's been resolved with the planning and zoning, and they've been in front of planning and zoning, and I know they put timers in and all that, so
So it has been
it has been
resolved?
resolved that I know of, yes.
Thank you.
And again, to repeat, as I said many times, under budget and ahead of schedule, this building was built. So thank you for the building committee, again, for all their hard work on this. And let's proceed to vote. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thurston?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Costa?
Yes.
Mrs.
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Chairman Kruzel?
Yes. Thank you again to Chairman
Passes.
Randy Daigle, Vice Chairman Wendy Osada, sorry. And that, to that whole committee, it was a long task, and we have a beautiful building for it, so. 11C, action, if any, regarding the education specifications of Phase 3 for the Henry Barnard Roof Replacement Project. And at this point, we'll ask Mr.
Sure.
DeFleur?
The floor.
Yes, Mr. DeFleur, sorry, to come forward.
Hello.
Yes.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Jason LaFleur. I'm, as some of you are aware, with Construction Solutions Group. CSG has been contracted to help your town with the final roof phase of the Henry Barnard Elementary School roof. we tried to rope it in with the second phase, but that didn't come to fruition. So you should have in front of you the ed specs, and hopefully with your approval and blessing, we can get that approved and keep the project moving forward.
So, again, it was pretty straightforward. It was pretty much the same ed specs we had for the other two phases, but this is a procedure.
It's kind of boilerplate, and luckily for us, all the homework and all of the research has already been done, and
Yep.
we have the same architect on board and the same contractor, so I believe we don't have to put it out to bid again.
Yeah, because I think we're going to
That'll
state bid.
expedite the process, right?
Yes.
So,
So we're trying to get this done over the summer.
yep.
So do I have a motion to accept?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Hall, seconded by Ms. Thurston. Any other discussion, questions, comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thurston?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Costa?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Chairman Kruzel?
Yes.
Motion passes.
I'd like to thank our owner's rep for all they do with our projects, and back to the high school project too. They were on that project too, so thank you again.
Thank you for your time. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, see you Thursday. 11D, new policy number 5,000, students, concept and roles in student policies. First reading, Mr. Rutledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Policy Committee has been continuing to review the very lengthy 5,000 series, but given the tenor of the last meeting, at a recent meeting, we felt it beneficial to break out the first policy in that series for its own individual first reading at this meeting, hopefully with a final approval via second reading at the first meeting in, or actually, I'm sorry, at the February 25th meeting in 2 weeks. I'm going to read verbatim from the policy. I know it's not standard, but this is probably the most important information in this policy. Discrimination among students attending our schools with respect to race, color, religious creed, age, marital status, national origin, sex, sexual orientation, physical or intellectual disability, genetic information, political ideology, gender identity, or expression is prohibited. That's it. That's basically it in a nutshell. It says that we do not tolerate discrimination in our schools, period. I think, and so I'm hoping today this first reading is approved. Assuming it is, and assuming this is approved through the second reading, I don't see any reason it wouldn't. I'd also like to just address if students or parents feel that somebody has been subjected to this kind of discrimination, I would encourage them to go initially to their school's administration, and if they're unsatisfied with the results they get from there, to then bring it to our central offices. Those are the places that will be able to investigate and will be able to look into these matters. I think this is an important policy for us to begin approving tonight, and I hope we have no issues with it. So thank you.
So we did the motion part.
Actually, I don't
No,
think you
no, we did
accepted
not.
it,
Okay, so motion to accept by Mr. Rutledge, second by Ms. Costa. So this is for our first reading. Any other discussion?
Is this a brand-new policy?
Yes.
Because it does not have an accepted date on it, and if it had been previously accepted, it should have one.
Right, so this is brand new from CABE, but they took bits and pieces from existing policies and they made it into, it's kind of like the start of our 5,000 series now. It's almost like a title
But it
page.
didn't exist before.
Not this, not a 5,000,
So there's
correct?
not a change or anything of the
correct.
sort. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Thurston?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mr. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mr. Rutledge?
Yes.
Mrs. Costa?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Mrs. Hall?
Yes.
Chairman Kruzel?
Yes,
Motion passes.
thank you. So we move to 12, Board Committee Reports, Curriculum. Mr. Salazar isn't here. Who wants to? Ms. Hall, would you
We
like to?
have not had a meeting since the last one
Okay.
reported on, and the next one is on the 20th.
Okay, perfect. Finance.
Finance Committee met last night to review our current year spending and where we're at. And for those of you who really want to get into the details, over the next few meetings, we're going to be delving into individual grants and understanding all the ins and outs of how we record grants and what they pay for and all that good stuff. So please join us. Thanks.
Policy, Mr. Rutledge.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did meet last week. Our next meeting is on Wednesday, February 26th, where we continue reviewing the remainder of the 5,000 series. Also, the policy that we voted down at the last meeting, it was reviewed and enhanced based on discussions that were had at previous meetings. Mr. Longy was able to confirm that it does meet legal muster. So assuming the policy committee approves it at the February 26th meeting, we hope to have it on for a first reading on the March 11th Board of Ed meeting. Or March 10th, rather. March 10th, I'm sorry.
Leadership, we have none. Joint facilities, anyone want to take it, or?
Joint facilities are meeting this Thursday at 6 o'clock.
Just continuing,
And yeah,
now that we approved a roof, and I know we're trying to get the Eli Whitney started and also Hazardville started, so.
yeah, Eli Whitney and Hazardville Memorial roofs, one or the other is next on our plate.
Phase 1.
Phase 1, yes. JFK Building Committee met last Thursday, and they're meeting again this Thursday to finalize they went through the estimates, and they're finalizing the drawings, and they're going to be coming in front of us next meeting to approve the final layout and drawings, so stay tuned for that. Joint security.
We meet the first Wednesday in March. Sorry, first Wednesday in March.
There was an insurance meeting. Would you like to?
Yep, we did have an insurance meeting, started to preliminarily review our claims experience and what we should be expecting. But we did send the consultant back to the drawing board, and we'll have a follow-up meeting on March 3rd, I think. March 3rd or 4th. 3rd? March 3rd. Thanks.
Okay. And that's it, I believe. So we move to number 13, approval of minutes, special Board of Ed meeting on February 3rd, 2020.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Ryder, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. Any changes or discussion? All in favor? Do we have an aye over there?
Do you have an aye, Tina? Yes.
Okay.
Her hand is up.
She gave me a thumbs up, sorry.
So that's 8 in favor, 0 against. Number 14, approval of accounts and payroll for the month of January 2020. Ms. Costa.
Yep. The Finance Committee met on February 10th, 2020 to review financial statements for the month of January year-to-date and to examine various documents related to finances. Our review concluded that there is nothing significant to report to the board. I move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. I hereby certify that in the month of January, total expenditures amount to $8,080,840.45, broken down between payroll totaling $6,251,853.62 and other accounts totaling $1,828,986.83. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented.
Motion by Ms. Costa, seconded by Ms. Hall. Any discussion? All in favor? Tina's in favor also, so that's 8 in favor, 0 against. Thumbs up.
For the certification of grant expenditures, the Finance Committee met on February 10th, 2020 to review financial statements for grants during the month of January year-to-date and to examine various documents related to finances. Our review concluded that there is nothing significant to report to the board. I move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. I hereby certify that in the month of January, the total grant expenditures amount to $534,824.70, broken down between payroll totaling $451,006.31 and other accounts totaling $83,818.39. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approval for check invoices are properly documented.
Motion by Ms. Costa, seconded by Ms. Hall. Any discussion? All in favor? 8 in favor, 0 against. No line item transfers?
No line item transfers today.
Number 15, correspondence and communications.
Mrs. LeBlanc reported that there were none for this meeting.
None.
Thank you.
Number 16, executive session.
We do not have a need to go to executive session this evening.
No executive session. Number 18.
Motion to adjourn.
No, number 17. Number 17, motion by Ms. Thurston, seconded by Mr. Rutledge. Any discussion? All in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you very much and good night.